Awesome. So yeah, I guess it's our first midweek Midrash, as Sister Marissa had suggested. So praise Yah.
Hallelujah.
Yeah, I appreciate you making that suggestion. Honestly, it was a good idea.
And I'm glad we're going to be going over this.
Yeah, and this is definitely an important topic. Unfortunately, our brothers and especially our sister are being led down a terrible path because of this. And all we can do is pray and just expose the false doctrines. And, that's what we're here to do. And just rightly divide the word. Test everything by his word. And what does the word say? Not what does some, book or other scroll written, in the 3rd, 4th century. We're not going to go by what these books say. We're going to go by what Scripture says. And so really, I wanted to start with, here, let me share my screen. Well, first, actually, before I do that, let's start with a prayer. Father, Abba Yahuah, we come to you in prayer to ask for your guidance and your blessings, and especially your protection. Help us to study out your word and rightly divide your word and your truth. And help us to discern the different doctrines of men that are out there. Please be here to protect us all, Father. Help to lift us all up. All of us going through trials and tribulations and struggles, no matter what it is. Please help us, Father. Give us the strength we need. And we cannot do it without you. And I pray to you in the name of Yahushua HaMashiach. Let it be so. And, feel free, if anybody has anything to add, feel free to jump on in. And I'll try to pause and allow for that as well, so you don't have to interrupt. So let me go to our first scriptures here that I wanted to share. And it's going to be Romans chapter 16. And, we can really start in verse 16, but it's going to go to verse 18. So Romans 16 through 18. Greet one another with a set-apart kiss. The assemblies of Messiah greet you. Now I call upon you, brothers. Watch out for those who cause divisions and stumbling, contrary to the teaching which you have learned, and turn away from them. For such ones do not serve our Master Yahushua Messiah, but their own stomach, and by smooth words and flattering speech they deceive the hearts of the innocent. And especially verse 18 there is very pertaining to what we're going to discuss tonight. And because some are swayed by flattering speech and smooth words, and they just fall into this deception by them. And so, what we're going to cover here is exactly what Gnosticism is, for those of you who don't know. And really just a quick search, as you can see, just what is the Gnosticism belief. Even the AI gives a good enough answer for it, but there's a lot of resources down here that defines exactly what it is. And really, this just sums it up, so I'm just going to read from here. So Gnosticism is a religious and philosophical movement that emphasizes personal spiritual knowledge, or gnosis, over traditional religious authority. Gnostic belief that the material world was created by a flawed deity known as the demiurge, and that true salvation comes from gaining knowledge of the divine and escaping the imperfections of the physical world. So as you can see, just in this brief description here, we can already see exactly what it is. So it's a collection of religious philosophical ideas that emerged in the late 1st and early 2nd centuries. So after the time of Messiah, the same time as Rabbi Akiba, the same suspicious time as all these other different books. And it emphasizes personal spiritual knowledge known as gnosis over the authority of organized religious institutions. Really, what this means to say is it puts its authority over what Scripture says, because that's what the claim is. Gnostics believe that the material world is flawed and created by a lesser deity, often referred to as the demiurge. So it just kind of went over the same thing there again. You know, their key beliefs here. So their true God, Gnostics believe in a transcendent God who is beyond human comprehension and did not create the material world. This demiurge this flawed creator God is responsible for the imperfect material world, trapping souls in physical existence. So we can already see the danger. 100% danger. Human existence, flawed creation. Gnostics view the material world as inherently flawed, filled with suffering and imperfection. Well, at least this last part is right, because it is filled with suffering and imperfection. But salvation through knowledge, yep, right there. We all know exactly where that comes from. So salvation is achieved through personal, mystical knowledge of the divine, allowing individuals to escape the material realm. Spiritual dualism. Anti-cosmic view. Gnosticism often presents a dualistic worldview, where the spiritual realm is good and the material world is evil or corrupt. And role of these aeons. Gnostics believe in intermediate divine beings called aeons, which exist between the true, this should be lowercase God, and humanity. And this is what they believed the Messiah was. He was just one of these aeons. Gnostic texts. Their beliefs are expressed in the various texts, those found in the Nag Hammadi library. These writings explore the themes of enlightenment, the nature of the divine, and the path to spiritual awakening. So we're not going to get into this last sentence here. It's just giving its opinion on what Gnosticism is. But so what is the Nag Hammadi library? Well, even our dear sister Ellie, and probably many others, have talked about the red flags and what this is right here. And a lot of the books that were shared in our group here are from here. So what is the Nag Hammadi library? The Nag Hammadi library is a collection of early Christian and Gnostic texts discovered near the Upper Egyptian town of Nag Hammadi in 1945. 12 leather-bound papyrus codices buried in a sealed jar were found by an Egyptian farmer named Muhammad al-Saman and others in late 1945. The writings in these codices comprise 52 mostly Gnostic treatises, but they also include 3 works belonging to the Corpus Hermeneutium and a partial translation or alteration of Plato's Republic. In his introduction to the Nag Hammadi library in English, okay, it just goes on about the author, but we can see this contains nothing but Gnostic writings. It's nothing but what we just read about here. What is Gnosticism? Well, the Nag Hammadi library, it promotes nothing but what we just read there. And, here you can see right here in the search, all you have to do, type in what is the Nag Hammadi library, and you'll see all these different resources. And you can dive into exactly what these things are, what books are in there, things like that. So, now that we see that, so why do they connect Essene and try to give that label to the sons of Zadok? It's to confuse people. This is why they gave Essene, that title Essene, to the sons of Zadok, when the sons of Zadok are not associated with this title at all. So again, we see gnosis.org in the title itself. This is speaking about that Essene gospel of truth. Look where it comes from. The Nag Hammadi library. They like to label things Essene, as you can see. Essene, gospel of truth. But if you keep scrolling down, you see, I've ran into this site before, quite a while ago. But as we can see, they label this Nag Hammadi doctrine the Essene doctrine. And they give that Essene title to the sons of Zadok. And they did this around the same time and date, as you can see, in the 1940s. So they were trying to lump all this together and say, oh, look, these sons of Zadok writings, just call them Essene. That way people won't look into them and they'll associate them with these Gnostic texts we just found too. That's the whole reason they did that. In the entirety of all the Dead Sea Scrolls, you will never see once themselves calling themselves Essene. But you will in this Nag Hammadi library, these Nag Hammadi websites. This is exactly where all these books that were shared come from. They have these Gnostic origins from this Gnostic site that was found. And this should be really easy for anybody to look up. I don't want to get fully deep into it because we do have a lot to cover. So feel free, anybody, to search this out for yourself as well. And actually, I encourage that, because then you'll see more and more exactly what I'm trying to show here. And unfortunately, some of our brothers and sisters have fallen for this doctrine. So, here's another one that they use, the Handbook of Established Righteousness. And we're going to get into exactly where this book stems from as well. Because we see here, brotherhoodofchristchurch.org, this is where this handbook came from. And we'll go to this site and just show you a couple of beliefs that they have. And then look where else it comes from as well. Book of Mormon chat forum. We have the PDF for it. So this is a Mormon book that this sect took from the Mormons and are using it to build a doctrine. And this is the book that was shared that, eating meat is sin and things like that. Well, the people who are believing these things are just falling for these Mormon and crazy doctrines over here. And we're going to get into that. So we have the overview, and it seems like a pretty decent thing at first until you look into where it came from. So the Handbook of Established Righteousness is a reference book published by the Brotherhood of Christ Church. It serves as a companion to the Book of Remembrance and is designed to provide a guidance for those interested in establishing righteous communities. Yeah, it sounds all fine and dandy. The book compiles over 40 years of experience in living. It includes practical advice, sacred information, essential for practicing the religion of Shabuah. Interesting. we're going to get into what that is as well, because that has everything to do with this brotherhood of Christ here. So it aims to assist individuals in studying the books of remembrance and offers insight that are not available in other sources, aka the Bible, because it goes completely against scriptures. And then this just goes into how it's available and so forth and so on. So I shared this link in our chat the other day as well. You guys can go there, but look how much they charge for it. First of all, and it says right on the thing, the religion of Yahuah. What is this religion of Yahuah? Where is it at? It came up on my phone. Why is it not showing it? Oops, I know why, because I have to look. So, give me 1 second. I forgot to bring that tab up. But before we do that, so we see where this handbook comes from. Let me go here really quick. So this is this Mormon thing to the PDF of it. But since we're here, I think that I spelled it correct. Hold on. Apologies. Where is that? Hold on. Apologies. I completely forgot to pull this part up. Where is it? Right here. So give me just a moment. Okay. Here we go. Here it is. Here's the link I had shared. So it goes over their statement of faith and things like that. It all sounds fine and dandy and all good. And then they talk about we are what the New Testament refers to as the sect of Nazarenes. History sometimes refers to them as Essenes. Our religion is also referred to as the religion of Yahuah.
Wow. That's wild.
Yep.
Wow.
And then, you can go through here. You can see, some of these things don't seem so bad. But let me scroll down to where it is. And then you see, look, they keep the Enoch calendar in the Dead Sea Scrolls. Well, because they associate them with the Essenes as well. And they're not keeping the true calendar, actually. But that's a whole nother topic. We've gone over the calendar and the Dead Sea Scrolls, actually. So what I really... Actually, this one above as well. And actually, that's a good highlight color for it right there is red. We practice the righteous use of element worship and healing as evidenced in James 5:14 through 16. So I know everybody in this group knows what James 5:14 through 16 says. And it says nothing about element worship. There's actually one who gets worship. But then they also say, look, they practice interaction with holy angels of heaven. Really? While they're doing elemental worship. They also claim they have some heavenly tablets, which are copies of ancient tablets found today in museums. So they're just copies of some tablets in museums. And who else does this? The Mormons as well. They claim they have, their John Smith or Joseph Smith, whatever. He found these special tablets. They supposedly still have them, but nobody's ever allowed to see this evidence, and anyone is just denied access to even see them. So, they're already claiming to have special tablets. They're doing elemental worship. They're talking to angels, quote unquote, fallen angels. But this book right here, or sorry, not this book, where is it? This one. The Handbook of Established Righteousness. This was shared a lot, and this is quoted a lot from our brother Lee, who unfortunately left as well. But he's using this to quote all the things about not eating meat and how meat is a sin, and we have to toss out most of scriptures without any evidence whatsoever as just, added to and removed from.
Wait a minute. You mean Lee endorsed this book that you're talking about?
He does.
Oh my. Okay.
He's endorsed all these. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. I was just going to also say that I overheard Lee telling Katrina that the Essenes are the true Yahudim.
Yeah, and we can see where that title comes from. And it's so that he can clump all this into, look, there were Essenes, there were sons of Zadok. No, they weren't. In our we've been together here in our fellowship almost a year now. And our main focus of the study was the Dead Sea Scrolls. We have in our library group so many PDFs of the Dead Sea Scrolls, in the original language it was written in. And, the claims are that all of these have been changed and edited. And when you ask for the proof and evidence of this, you just get told, well, lying pens of the scribes. Well, yes, there's lying pens of the scribes, but there is also physical evidence of these lying pens of scribes. These subtle changes they made, these slight rewording of things. It's giving Satan way too much credit to say, we got to toss out 80 to 90% of the scriptures and go with this doctrine here. And, I meant to mention this earlier, but, this is not, if you want to have a plant-based diet, that's perfectly fine. This is not about if you want a meat-based diet, it's perfectly fine. This is about following a different doctrine to promote eating meat as a sin. And I'm speaking about clean meats from the clean animals. That's what this is promoting. It's about, honestly, in my opinion, it's about condemnation of others by calling eating meat a sin and just pushing something, because it's one of those agendas, that, someone will use to lord it over somebody else or to condemn others. And I don't believe that's right at all. If you only want to eat meat, go right ahead. If you only want to eat vegetables, go right ahead. But
See, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
See, I went back to being a vegetarian, not vegan, but vegetarian. And I'm choosing it for health reasons and for other reasons. But nowhere in the scriptures does it say that eating clean meats is a sin. Nowhere. But I do believe that when we are in eternity, that we will be back to an Eden diet, and there won't be any killing of Yah's animals when we're in eternity, because there's not going to be any bloodshed. So, but right now, not at all.
Yeah, I agree with that. And like I said, you're doing it for health reasons, that's perfectly fine. No one's going to hate you or bash you for doing that. And this is just about the false doctrines from these books that have been shared and, quoted and whispered into people's ears. And unfortunately, some people, which I thought had more discernment, unfortunately don't and have fully, dove headfirst into this.
Yeah, my heart is very heavy when I found that out. It just makes me so sad. I tell you, the enemy is definitely, yeah, I don't even have the words. It just breaks my heart.
So, I feel like that's why it's good for us to look at, well, where exactly are these sources from? What is the history of them? Are they things that we should even read? we're told to guard our eyes and to guard our ears from, many things of this world. So just like I would not incline my eyes or ears to something like, I don't know, porn comes to mind, because of how that could defile me. I wouldn't incline my ear towards these texts that are from another religion, that do not support scripture at all.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's dangerous grounds, honestly.
It really is.
And to take these books and put them above scriptures, that's where the danger comes in. It's literally, you're risking your salvation if you want to go down this road. Hey, shalom, Sumi. I see you
Shalom.
there.
What does it remind you of, though? Like the forbidden fruit, it seems so good. You're going to be
Yeah.
powerful. You're going to have more knowledge than your assembly. You're going to have this mystical, whatever, chakras and all that mumbo jumbo. It's crazy. I've went down that road, so I think she can come back from it, but it's sad. It's going to be hard.
I believe
we're all praying.
she will, especially when if she's choosing to have an open heart. You'll be able to see the error in it immediately when you line it up with his Torah. It'll be common sense just lining it up, saying, "Wow, this is the exact opposite of what the scriptures say."
Yeah. That's why I'm so shocked it has honestly become as big an issue as it is. And, we should have enough discernment to see this,
I agree.
It's really a shocker. And,
It may just be something that she has to go through, though. We were just reading in Acts, and it was talking about who, babe, was the sorcerer, and then he believed. No, we were just reading the Acts, and it was talking about, oh my God, I can't remember his name now, but all these people that came to the faith, and one of them was actually a sorcerer.
Hold on, man.
Anyway, but I think that maybe this is what it's going to take to make her really get her foundation right, because she didn't have a good foundation, and that's why she didn't have the understanding and the wisdom to go along with it. Simon. So, but we need to be praying for her, definitely.
Yeah, absolutely. Truly.
She's not my favorite person, but I don't want her outside the camp either.
Yeah, and I feel like that's like a real stark claim that she's making. And so I'm excited to hear some of those scriptures that really debunk this, about how we were never meant to eat meat in the first place, or that all that's been changed. And we, like the new thing is about sacrifices. I was told via these sources that the sacrifices were allowed by Moses for the hardness of people's hearts alongside divorce. And I know that that's false, just with a quick look in Leviticus. But yeah, I'm excited to hear what Jeremy has to present about proving that meat is fine to eat.
One more thing, and then I'm gonna hush. Another thing is her body, when she cuts out all meat, her body's gonna be telling her this is not cool. Some people can do it, but I don't think that she's gonna be able to. I'm praying that she can. I'm praying it makes her sick,
if that's the case,
the Father,
all meat be considered to be unclean?
The Father makes that part of her testimony is she's gonna have to have meat. And her children, what's she gonna take meat away from her children too? So
I'll share something in regards to that. There's a right way and a wrong way to be a vegetarian. I was a strict vegetarian for 10 years and was the healthiest I had ever been. My protein, so-called protein, which is really amino acids, what your body converts it into, if you do it properly, you will not suffer any ill effects from a lack of protein or / amino acids. There's a right way and a wrong way to do it. I was taught by medical missionary, a couple who knew about herbs, who also knew about natural healing people from cancer and many other diseases, but also being strict vegetarians. So there is a right way and a wrong way to do it.
Yeah. And yeah, like I said, this isn't about whether you choose or not to choose, whichever way you want to go. It's just about the doctrine being pushed. And
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree, because the enemy will try to grab a hold of it, some kind of foothold, and it doesn't matter where at. If he could get you in a foothold somewhere to lead you at least a little bit astray, I mean, it's like a domino effect. So, but especially in appetite. What was the first temptation that came into the world and our first parents fell? It was on appetite. So there is I mean, appetite is will prove the ruin of millions.
That's true.
Gluttony, many other things.
Yeah, that as well. Let's see. Okay, so this is just an overview of another book that they were using, the Essene Gospel of Peace. But, when you look at where this comes from, it comes from this Edmond Bordeaux Isletsky, who claimed to have translated it from ancient manuscripts he discovered in the 1920s. However, scholars widely consider it a forgery, as no original manuscripts have been verified. So again, we get the story of, oh, look, we found these ancient texts. We translated it to, what it says here. But there's no evidence of the original things. So we can see this pattern here of that going on. And again, it just repeats the same thing. But here the key claims, the translation origins. Zletsky alleged that he found an Aramaic translation of the Essene Gospel of Peace at the Vatican and a Hebrew text at the Benedictine monastery of Monte Cassino. So again, these are the claims. It's like, hey, that might be a valid claim. It came from the Vatican. But there's no evidence or anything of these originals. The content focus emphasizes a raw food diet, hydrotherapy, and spiritual practices, suggesting that, quote-unquote, J-Man advocated for vegetarianism. We know this is untrue, and we're going to go into the scriptures about that as well.
What breaks my heart is there's so many good things about being a vegetarian, on top of knowing how to use the water, air, sunlight, herbs, and all that. And they are so twisting the good things that Yah has given us to make it evil. This is what is very, very, it's angering. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, I know exactly how you feel. It's angering to me as well, sister. And yeah, Satan uses these things, and he'll use, especially the ones even closest to us. Sometimes they don't even realize it. And so that's why, prayer is definitely essential. But we can see, they make this vegetarian diet, and they push it to the point of where now, if you eat clean meat, you're in sin. Well, no, that's not the case.
Yeah, they're making their God their belly, unfortunately. Yep. Even though it's still good for you when you do it right, and hydrotherapy, heliotherapy, and all these things, which are so good for us, and for them to just, oh, my goodness. Because it's going to turn people off to the true. I mean, because Yah does use these things for healing people,
Yeah.
So this is a stumbling block, major.
I agree. It absolutely is. And then here's where it gets into the authenticity issues. So the scholars widely regard the Essene Gospel of Peace as a forgery, and investigations revealed that no original manuscripts exist, and Zelensky's claim have been challenged by biblical scholars. Yep. And it's not that hard to challenge either. And the Vatican and other institutes have denied Zelensky's access to their archives. Many experts consider his work a fabrication rather than a genuine translation of ancient text. Exactly like the Mormons do, exactly like we see that Shabuah religion do, things like that. It's just this block of red flags going on here, especially with all of these books. And then they were using these Clement writings as well. So when all you got to do is look up what Clement literature is, and this is directly from Wikipedia right here. Yeah, slippery soap. It really is, Sister Germaine. And Sister Germaine also has a bit to present after this as well about seething the meat, and which will only further prove, eating clean meats is not a sin. So, so here, Clementine literature. The Clementine literature is a late antique 3rd century Christian romance containing an account of the conversion of Clement of Rome to Christianity, his subsequent life and travels with the Apostle Peter, claimed, and an account of how they became traveling companions. Yeah, this is not right. Peter's discourses, and finally Clement's family history, and eventual reunion with his family. To reflect the synonymous nature of the authorship, the author is sometimes referred to as Pseudo-Clement. In all likelihood, the original text went by the name of Periodo Petru. Sometimes historians refer to it as Grundschrift. Though lost, the original survives in 2 recessions known as the Clementine Homilies and the Clementine Recognitions. The overlap between the two has been used to produce a provisional reconstruction of the Circuits of Peter. Respectively, the original titles for these 2 texts were Clementia and the Recognitions of the Rome of Clement. Both were composed in the 4th century. So this is well after Peter. And first of all, when we read Peter, he makes no mention of this guy. None of this. And we can see it's all from Rome, from the 4th century. They didn't use a lot of these writings, but they were mentioned a few times in the chat. And they use these writings to say, look, our New Testament's all been rewritten because, look, we have this guy from Rome that says so.
Yeah, that's what was shared with me, that recognitions of Clementine or whatever, about how it was Moses who allowed for sacrifices for the hardness of people's hearts. That's the book that came from.
Yeah. It's Roman doctrine, doctrines of men, and it's from the 4th century. And this is
So
it's this very book.
What year is the 4th century?
What year is it? You're asking the hard question, sister. Let's see.
Wouldn't it be the 300s?
Yeah, so 301 to 400.
Oh, I'm getting good at this. Okay.
Yeah,
you
I
got
was
it.
thinking that too. Hey, that's well after Peter. Come on.
I mean, yeah.
Yeah, and this is what they used to say, our New Testament's not even the one we should be reading. Take it from this Clementine guy, he's from Rome, he knows. We all know what comes from Rome. That's the literal beast of Revelation. And then just to go on who this Clement guy was, Clement of Alexandria, known by Titus Flavius Clemens, or Clement of Alexandria, a schematic Christian theologian and man, I can't speak. Theologian and philosopher who taught at the end. Man, these are some hard words, guys. Taught at the Catechetical School of Alexandria. Among his pupils were Origen and Alexander of Jerusalem, a convert to Christianity. He was an educated man who was familiar with classical Greek philosophy and literature.
Wow.
As the three, yeah. So wait till we get to this. So as his three major works demonstrate, Clement was influenced by Hellenistic philosophy. We all know where Hellenism came from, the usurpers, all of these things. To a greater extent than any other Christian thinker of his time, in particular by Plato and the Stoics. His secret works, which exist only in fragments, suggest he was familiar with pre-Christian Jewish esotericism and Gnosticism as well.
Wow. Okay.
In one of his works, he argued that the Greek philosophy had its origin among non-Greeks, claiming that both Plato and Pythagoras were taught by Egyptian scholars. Clement is usually regarded as a church father. See, all these red flags, guys. He is venerated as a saint in the Coptic Christianity, Eastern Catholicism, Ethiopian Christianity, and Anglicanism. It was a mouthful to read that, guys. Apologies. I know.
So, are you saying that we shouldn't take our doctrine from him?
Yes, that is the point. That is absolutely the point. So, as you can see, every single book that was shared and recommended to read and is being quoted as doctrine and placed over scriptures all have this one thing in common right here: Gnosticism.
Did you say that this was the same route that Justin Best started on?
Yes.
Oh my!
It's the same route Justin Best went down. This is where he started denying the New Testament.
Yeah, and then he looked into Caesar's Messiah, right?
Yeah, then your denial of Messiah. Then once you deny Messiah, I mean, that's it.
That's it. Yeah.
Like I said, this is a scary and dangerous path.
Yeah, it is.
And to even take any word from any of these books that we've gone over, you're only deceiving yourself, because it's clear. You know, this is a 30-minute search I did, probably altogether 30 minutes to look all this information up.
Well, it was just like finding out about moon and phases of the moon, and just looking that up when I was trying to figure out the calendar or how to start the feast, how to start the month. And it's such a quick, easy find. And I don't get how people were arguing with what phase of the moon. I'm like, where are you getting any of this? Because it's not in scripture. Yeah,
exactly. And it's as easy as that, honestly. You test it to his word, and it's like, hey, this doesn't line up. Bye. Gone.
Exactly.
And so there's quite a few of scriptures, even more so than what I have here. And I'm sure many of you have some to share as well, if I haven't covered them here. But like I said, it's going to take tossing out 80 to 90% of what scriptures say to say that meat is a sin. It's going to require tossing 80 to 90% of the Bible out to follow any of these previously mentioned books that we just covered. The only excuse that they have is, oh, well, they label them Gnostic, so you don't look into them. Well, when you actually look into them, you see exactly why they are labeled that. It's because they all have this same agenda, the same, based, the same foundation.
Belief system.
Yeah, exactly. They have the same belief system. Correct. So no, they're not labeled that to stop people from reading them. They're labeled that because they are that. So this is exactly why they change things up just like that. Just like they'll label the Sons of Zadok and the Dead Sea Scrolls. Oh, they're all Essenes. Why? Because they want us all to associate them with these writings. And then the people who actually have discernment, they see these writings and they're like, whoa, if they're Essenes, I don't even want to look at them. Why? Because the Dead Sea Scrolls contain facts, evidence, all of these things. They contain truth.
Right.
Like literally our entire almost year-long fellowship that we've had, we've done nothing but go over Dead Sea Scrolls, with a fine-tooth comb.
Yes, and establishing the true priesthood.
Yep.
And nowhere does it say anything about the Essenes.
Nope. And nowhere is there any evidence that, well, see, now they changed all that just to trick us as well. Well, then why does it all line up with scriptures? If all this stuff has been changed, why does it all line up together? The things that don't line up are these books. These are the odd men out right here. Everything else lines up. These don't. So are we going to believe these books that came from Rome and Gnosticism and esoteric beliefs and Mormonism and just all throw them together and make a doctrine out of it? No, we absolutely cannot do that. And especially when it's requiring us to throw away scripture. And so we have Exodus, this is 31 and verse 18. But this is when he gets the heavenly tablets, the law, the Torah. So when Yahuah had finished speaking with Moses on the Mount Sinai, he gave him the 2 tablets of the testimony and the tablets of stone, inscribed by the finger of Elohim. And so we're going to read some other verses over here. Deuteronomy 9:10 says the same thing. Then Yahuah gave me the 2 stone tablets, inscribed by the finger of Elohim, with the exact words that Yahuah spoke to you out of the fire on the mountain on the day of the assembly. So we have to remember he was given this law, the law from the beginning, which we're going to get here in Jubilees. But this is the same law, the same commands, the same Torah as it was in the beginning. It's not a different one. It's the same one that was given to Adam and Eve and passed on down. So he declared to you, Deuteronomy 4:13, he declared to you his covenant, which he commanded you to follow, the 10 commandments that were wrote on the 2 tablets of stone. And as we know, the 10 commandments are just the chapter headings for all the commands that fall under them. Because we see Moses was continued to be given instructions by Yahuah. And we see Exodus 24:12. Then Yahuah said to Moses, "Come up to me on the mountain and stay here, so that I may give you the tablets of stone with the law and commandments I have written for their instructions." So it's the law. It's not a different law. It's not, let me give you this different law than what I gave your forefathers. It's the same law. The same ones written by Yahuah himself. He is the same in the beginning. He's the same in the end. He doesn't change. And so we have Deuteronomy 4:13. I think we already read that. Apologies. Yeah, we did. But here, let me continue on with 14 though. So at that time, Yahuah commanded me to teach you the statutes and ordinances you are to follow in the land that you are crossing to the Jordan to possess. So he wrote down the 10 Commandments on stone, and then he told Moses, when he was speaking to him, he told Moses to command all that Yahuah had taught him about them, meaning all the categories that fall under these 10 commands, everything that applies to them. So all the law, the Torah, all of these things. And we see, he was there, everybody knows, 40 days and nights. Which other one was I looking at here? So these are really just where he's going over all the different commandments here. So what do we have here? So this is going to be Nehemiah 9:13. And really this is going to show, because, there was a claim that, well, Yahuah gave us bad commands. Well, nowhere in scriptures does it ever say Yahuah gave bad commandments. So Nehemiah 9, specifically verse 13. But this is all speaking about Yahuah. So you came down on Mount Sinai and spoke with them from heaven. You gave them just ordinances, true laws, and good statutes and commandments. You revealed to them your holy Sabbath, gave them the commandments and the statutes and laws through your servant Moses. So we see he gave good laws, true laws, good statutes, just ordinances. All these things are good. It wasn't some different law. It's the only true ones that have been there since the beginning. And how do we know this? Well, this is going to be Jubilees chapter 1 and verse 4 here. And Moshe was on the mountain for 40 days and night. And Elohim taught him the earlier and the later history of the division of all the days of the law. And, there we go. Of the law and of the witness, the testimony. The testimony of what? His word. That it's always true. It has been true since the beginning. All the divisions of the days. And it's not going to change until heaven and earth pass away. That's what Messiah himself said. This is why it's also called the renewed covenant. It's not a new covenant. It's renewed. Just like it was renewed there in Egypt. There's nothing new under the sun. They had been lost in Egypt for 400 years, and they'd forgotten all these things. So he had to renew it. And he started with Moshe, and, Moshe was his servant. All these things are renewed from what the beginning was. All these things from the beginning. It wasn't anything different. Sorry, I'm trying to get over to the other tabs here. And so now that we see there wasn't a different Torah, there's not some kind of original Torah different than what we have written in our scriptures. And like I said, the Dead Sea Scrolls, the Samaritan Pentateuch, the Septuagint, all these very, very ancient writings as well say the same exact things as what we see written in our Bibles today. Of course, there's small difference here and there. That's about the extent that Yahuah allows his word to be changed. And nothing is changed without there being evidence of this change. And so this is going to be Genesis 9:3. And this is their rainbow covenant that they talk about a lot. And that rainbow was given to Noah as a sign that he's not going to flood the earth again. There wasn't anything different about what Noah was following, because immediately after he starts making offerings and sacrifices as well. We can trace offerings and sacrifices to Yahuah all the way back to Cain and Abel.
Actually, Jeremy, all the way back to Adam and Eve.
Actually,
the very first sin.
this is true. This is very true.
Because he gave them animal skins to wear instead of the fig leaves that they had sewn to cover their shame.
Correct. That's absolutely right. And actually, I was going to cover that here too. But yeah, absolutely. And so
Sorry, I got
this
ahead.
is, yeah, no worries. Feel free to jump on in. It's all good. And then so we're going to see Genesis chapter 9, and we'll just read 2 through 4. And it's right here on the side. So the fear and dread of you will fall on every living creature on the earth. That means the animals are now going to be afraid of us. And every bird of the air, every creature that crawls on the ground, and all the fish of the sea, they are delivered into your hand. And everything that lives and moves will be food for you, just as I gave you the green plants. I now give you all things. So a lot of people try to twist this out of context and say, look, all food. No, because it goes into much more context and detail about exactly what was given. So this is just a brief statement. But anyways, but you must not eat the meat with its lifeblood still in it. So this is not saying don't eat meat. This is saying if you eat meat, you're in sin. Nothing like that. But here, Leviticus 11:2-3 say to the Israelites, of all the beasts of the earth, these ones you may eat. You may eat any animal that has a split hoof, completely divided, and that chews the cud. So we see Genesis is just the quick overview, and then we see Leviticus goes into more detail, exactly what constitutes as clean and unclean. So is the entirety of Leviticus chapter 11, we're just going to toss all that out? That was just all added and, inserted in there? Because it says the same in the Dead Sea Scrolls, the Samaritan Pentateuch, the Septuagint.
Even in the Masoretic?
Even in the Masoretic. It says right here, we're looking at the Masoretic.
Sorry. I'm cooking and I can't see the screen. Sorry.
No worries. But yeah, even in the Masoretic. So, it requires evidence to make such a bold statement.
I just don't understand where they're getting that.
Me either. And then we see Deuteronomy 12:15. But whenever you want, you may slaughter and eat meat within any of your gates, according to the blessing of Yahuah, your Elohim. According to the blessing he has given you, both the ceremonial clean and unclean may eat it as they would a gazelle or deer. So now we have to toss out all of Deuteronomy and say this was all added in there. And then we see this is Peter's dream here in Acts 10:12-15, talking about animals, reptiles, things like that. And then a voice said to him, get up, kill and eat. And he said, no, I have never eaten anything impure or unclean. Well, why would Yahuah give him a dream about eating animals and things like that if we weren't supposed to eat meat? He's not going to use something that's a sin to show us what we should do. And a lot of these verses that line up to this, we're actually going to cover right now. So this is Deuteronomy 12:15, I believe. Yeah, we just read that. But then, verse 16, but you must not eat the blood, pour it on the ground like water. And so this one right here, Timothy chapter 4, verse 3. And we're actually going to read 2-4. Because we see Yahuah gave us these clean meats and animals to have in Thanksgiving. So influenced by the hypocrisy. Oh, go ahead.
Right. I'm sorry, super sorry. But back when you were talking about in Genesis, you said they say that the scriptures Oh, sorry, I'm super confused in my speech. It says that you may eat of every animal and so on. But what these anti-meat people are saying is it doesn't really say that. They're saying that you may eat of creeping vines, creeping plants. So they've actually twisted that up to suit their narrative. I just wanted to interject there. I'm sorry, wasn't able to do it before, but yeah. They're saying
Yeah,
it's
no.
creeping vines.
Creeping vines, huh?
Yeah. So then, yeah.
It's definitely not creeping vines, as we can see in all the other verses shared to back up. Like, look, it was me. Leviticus, Deuteronomy, all these things. It was definitely not creeping vines. And actually, this verse here in 1 Timothy, chapter 4, is going to show us that as well. And thank you for bringing that up as well, Sister Jermaine. So, influenced by the hypocrisy of liars, whose consciences are seared with a hot iron, they will prohibit marriage and require abstinence from certain foods that Yahuah has created to be received with thanksgiving by those who believe and know the truth. For every creation of Yahuah is good, and nothing that is received with thanksgiving should be rejected. So we can see, specifically talking about abstinence from certain foods that Yahuah created to be received with thanksgiving. We just went over how he created meat, different animals to be received with thanksgiving. He even says it right here, Deuteronomy 12:15. Whenever you want, you may slaughter and eat meat with any of your gates, according to the blessing Yahuah, your Elohim, has given you, according to the thanksgiving Yahuah has given them. He has given this meat. And then we have Genesis 18:8. We might read a couple of, well, maybe not, because this is when the three angels came as men to Abraham to talk about, Sarah getting pregnant at an old age. So Genesis 18, actually the whole chapter covers it, but here, verses 7 and 8. So meanwhile, Abraham ran to the herd. So after talking to those three angels, he selected a tender and choice calf and gave it to a servant, who hurried to prepare it. Then Abraham brought curds and milk and the calf that had been prepared, and he set them before the men and stood by them under the tree as they ate. So these three angels who came as men were eating this calf. I was told, well, the original language doesn't say calf there. Well, yeah, it does. And again, it's just, these slick words of men, are we going to trust them? Or are we actually going to go to the source and test these things out truly? Sorry, there's a lot of commentary on this one. So brought the milk and the calf, a son, which had been prepared. So we're going to go to the previous verse. Talking about the tender calf. So he ran to his herd, which is talking about beef, cattle, an ox, which technically is a bovine, in the bovine family of cattle, a herd. And he selected a tender choice from what? The herd of cattle. And again, we see son, but look what it's used in the context of. So he chose he chose a tender choice son of one of these cattle or one of these herds that he had, this ox. That's what it is meaning in the next verse. So yeah, sure, the word calf there in the next verse, you see son, and you're like, well, wait a minute. But then all you got to do is go to the verse prior, and you'll see, oh, look, he's choosing from a herd. You know, all throughout scriptures, we see the herding of sheep, the herding of goats, the herding of oxes. You know, they weren't herding these things for decoration purposes. You know, they were there to be provided as food as well, because that's what they ate back then. We have specific instructions on how to cook things, and especially the Passover meal as well.
I was just thinking.
Oh, go ahead, sister.
I'm sorry, we do have a time delay in our speech. I was just actually thinking this morning while I was up there milking the goats, and I was just looking over the paddock and all of our different trees and plants and thinking about the animals that he did create, the plants that he did create. You know, the minerals and the rocks and all things were made for purposes. Some plants were made for particular meals and purposes. Some plants were made for actual, you know, tinctures and, or not tinctures, or yes, they were, but, you know, poultices and healing and so I was thinking we have different animals for different things. He didn't just make sheep to be just walking around and just providing wool. He didn't just make goats to just be walking around. Or, I'm sorry, you know, all the animals seem to have a purpose, and we can see their purpose as well in the way that they were made. There's, you know, the fish and there's the cleanup crew of the ocean. They were made for that purpose, and there are some fish that are, you know, with the scales that we can see that are a clean source of food. The cattle, like, why would he make all these cattle? Yes, man has farmed them to such a degree, and they have changed their genetics to such a degree to produce more meat, produce more milk. You know, man has done a lot of tinkering, but the Father did create different birds for different purposes. He's made them, you know, some are scavengers and some are, you know, for good. Some are, sorry, I'm all over the place, but yeah, there's purposes for different things all over the earth. He didn't just make animals to do nothing and just for us to look at. Do you know what I mean? Like, they've got a use, and the cattle, they've got a use.
Yeah. And, you know, these uses are being described right here in all these verses that we're reading.
Yeah.
And yeah, and, you know, they try to trick you with things like, oh, you know, well, what if it's not the right Bible that we got, or this and that and another? Well, as you can see, all the Bibles, the versions of them, even the Dead Sea Scrolls, the oldest versions we have, they all line up and match with each other. There's no evidence of such a huge tampering with scriptures.
Hey, Jeremy.
Oh, go ahead. Yeah.
Sorry, Jermaine. I didn't mean to interrupt you. Go ahead.
Sorry, that's also something I said to my husband as well. Take away all the books you want, but if a man was just to stand on this earth and look at what's been created, they have a purpose. I was just, you know, without even using any scripture, they've been made for something. They have a purpose, not just animals, the plants and everything. Sorry, Miranda.
No, I completely agree. And yeah, I was talking to Jeremy and Marissa yesterday, and we were talking about the animals and their purposes, and, you know, why make the distinction between unclean and clean if we weren't supposed to eat them at all? Wouldn't they all be unclean if we weren't supposed to eat them? You know, how else would we wouldn't know the difference between unclean and clean. You know, you think of a rabbit, right? That's unclean to eat, yet it eats grass. So you're like, why wouldn't it be clean? Well, because it might chew the cud, but it's got padded feet, so we can't eat those. And then I think it was my brother James that was explaining to me that cows and goats have more than one stomach, and the process of chewing the cud is they're breaking down things that our bodies can't. So their bodies are like filters, and end up, everything's filtered out that's bad, but everything that's there that we need is good. And so that's, how else would we know that except for Yahuah himself, who made it, his perfect design.
Yeah, absolutely. And I agree 100% with both of you sisters. They didn't have flocks and herds for decoration purposes. They didn't have so many just to have them and look at. And we can see that in all the verses we've just gone over. We can see there was only one Torah that was given, and it's going to be the same one that stands until Judgment Day. And so we have 1 Samuel 28:24. Maybe we should actually read 23, 24, and 25. So this is talking about Shaul. So Shaul refused, saying, "I will not eat." But his servants joined the woman in urging him, and he heeded their voice. He got up from the ground and sat on the bed, and the woman had a fattened calf at her house, and she quickly slaughtered it. She also took flour and kneaded it, and baked unleavened bread. She served it to Shaul and his servants, and they ate. And that night they got up and left. So again, we see a calf being slaughtered and given to even one of the kings of Israel. So if it's such a sin to eat meat, why are angels eating meat? Why are they cleaning up clean animals? If that's the case, how are we covered by the blood of Messiah if all of that is unclean? And then, so this is just covering Genesis 18 again. I don't know if I had... So Judges 6, verse 19, talking about Gideon, and then went and prepared a young goat and unleavened bread and an ephah of flour. And he placed the meat in a basket and the broth in a pot, and brought them out to present to him under the oak. So we have all these different verses speaking about...
It says broth.
Wait, what's that?
It says broth.
Yeah, broth. So
how do you make broth?
With boiling stuff.
Y'all know where I'm going with that.
Yeah, I know that's exactly where... That's exactly what Sister Germaine's going to cover as well.
I know. So I'm waiting on her to chime in.
So I'm sure she's probably already going to cover this, but we'll go down to the word here. And so much commentary on all these. Okay. Juice stewed out of meat or a broth. Wahamarak in a pot. So yeah, it's always talking about exactly that. So yeah. Okay. Where was I? I think that's all we had here. Let me just double check real quick.
Jeremy, can I mention something real quick?
Yeah, go right ahead.
So in the New Testament, the parable about the prodigal son, when the prodigal son came home, he was given a fatted calf and a big celebration. So again, even Yahushua himself used that in parables when speaking to the people.
Wow, yeah. Yeah. Yeah, and then here we have 1 Samuel 9:24 talking about a leg of probably a goat or lamb or something like that. And he said it before Shaul. And then Samuel said, "Here is what was kept back. It was set apart for you. Eat, for it has been kept for you for this occasion. From the time I have said, I have invited the people." So Shaul dined with Samuel that day. So we see, once again, meat, we'll call it leg of lamb there. I need to go look at the context of what it was, but yeah. We see meat is perfectly acceptable. It's all throughout scriptures of, not only people eating them, but offering them because of the sacrifices as well. Which, they also try to say were only for a time, which, yes, of course, animal sacrifices for a sin and atonement, things like that. We don't have to do those anymore because, Messiah was our sacrifice for sin and atonement, things like that. So if sacrifices weren't necessary, then what was the sacrifice of Messiah if they're not necessary, or if they were something to go against? What about the bush, or the ram caught in the bush with Abraham and Isaac? That ram was caught in a bush, and it was taken and slain and sacrificed instead of Isaac. So many things. So many verses. It just shows, look, eating meat is not a sin. Going down the road of we have to toss out every single verse we've read this evening, that's a dangerous road. And they've gone so far as to say even, now the Exodus and all that, just toss it out because the Passover never happened. That's also the story there as well. And it's really, really wild. But here we see, so this is going to be Luke 22:8. We'll start in verse 7. So then came the day of unleavened bread on which the Passover lamb was to be sacrificed. And then Yahushua sent Peter and John, saying, "Go and prepare for us to eat the Passover." "Where do you want us to prepare it?" they asked. We also see the same there in Matthew 26:17 through 19. First day on the Feast of Unleavened Bread, speaking about Passover, the disciples came to Yahushua and asked, "Where do you want us to prepare for you to eat the Passover?" Same thing in Mark. Where do you want us to prepare for you to eat the Passover? So where does the Passover begin? Like, what are the instructions specifically for Passover? And I wrote an entire article, actually, about the Passover and the Passover lamb. So this is going to be the instructions for Passover. And it's Exodus 12. "And Yahuwah spoke to Moshe and Aaron in the land of Mitzrayim, saying, This month is the beginning of months for you. It is the first month of the year for you. Speak to all the congregation of Israel, saying, On the 10th day of this month, each one of them is to take for himself a lamb according to the house of his father, and a lamb for a household. And if the household is too small for the lamb, let him and his neighbor next to his house take it, according to the number of beings. According to each man's need, you make your count for the lamb. And let the lamb be a perfect one, a year old male. Take it from the sheep or from the goats. And you shall keep it until the 14th day of that same month. Then all the assembly of the congregation of Israel shall kill it between the evenings. And they shall take some of the blood and put it on the 2 doorposts and on the lintel of the houses where they eat it. And they shall eat the flesh on that night, roasted in fire, with unleavened bread, and with bitter herbs they shall eat it. So this isn't just a suggestion, it's a command. He's saying they shall eat it, you shall eat this. And eat it in this specific way right here.
It actually translates in bitterness. Like the word herbs is not in there.
Really?
Yeah. In I looked it up in the interlinear.
Yeah. Hold on, let's take a look.
Yeah. Which makes sense.
Yeah, in bitterness, yeah, because it's the Passover. So, past all the commentary. Okay. They're to eat the meat that night, roasted with unleavened bread. A bitter thing, bitter herb.
No, you have to look at the word. You know how sometimes it'll still put the...
Yeah. No, I was just looking at the interlinear has bitterness, bitter, unleavened bread, and bitter.
The word herbs is not in there.
Yeah, interesting. The interlinear is actually pretty good at pointing that out. Interesting. So yeah. So eat it with bitterness, what have you, apparently. You learn something new every day. But it goes on to continue, don't eat it raw. Do not boil it with water, but roast it in fire. Its head with its legs and its inward parts. And do not leave of it until morning. And what remains of it until morning, you are to burn with fire. And this is how you eat it. With your loins girded, your sandals on your feet, and your staff in your hand. And you shall eat it in haste. This is the Passover of Yahuah. So we can see not only specific instructions for what to do, but, we're also to take that blood and put it over the lintels of the door so the angel of death would pass over the houses. It's the blood that's a covering. Just like the blood of Messiah is our covering.
I never understood how to prepare the lamb because it says you roast it whole, right, on a fire.
Yeah.
So, that's the brains, the intestines, everything.
Yeah, it would seem so, yes. But you don't eat any of that. You just eat, like it says, you eat what you want of it. Most people didn't eat.
I never thought of them like that.
I'm just saying,
Yeah.
You're still cooking the poop and everything. I guess I would quit feeding my lamb for 10 days. My lamb's going to come to the fire looking pretty scraggly. It's going on a diet.
Yeah, right?
That's why maybe that's why you get it 10 days early so you can prepare it,
Yeah. And no, so I see there, Greg. So no, we don't. We kill the lambs. They're slaughtered in a humane way. Just like the instructions, don't torture them, don't strangle them, don't do any of that. They had probably some kind of guillotine or some way to just, take them out right then and there. And it's to prevent, panic. It's to prevent the pain and suffering and things like that. It had to be done quickly. Just like, if we do it in pain and suffering, it's not a fun thing. Is my speculation, because, of course, I have not died. So I'm just saying, It's supposed to be done in a humane way. No strangulation. You don't find, something dead laying in the woods or on the road and eat it. It has to be slaughtered right then and there in a humane way that's not going to cause the adrenaline and fear and panic and things like that would run into the meat if you slaughtered them in an inhumane way. Yeah, there you go, Sister Jermaine. You said it. I don't want to say too much of that because this is going to go on YouTube, so that there's a way to do it.
Yeah, and with that method, Jermaine, they don't feel any pain, because I think our sister Sophia, she said that, when they do it, like they basically like don't feel anything because it's so like clean and cut, if that makes sense.
Yeah. I'm sure she will. She'll be able to explain here in a moment as well. Oh, I see her typing. Yeah. Exactly. And so, just this is going to go into some of the evidence that, our New Testament is not some different New Testament. It's not what is claimed in these Gnostic-based books that, don't trust it. It's all wrong. Actually, from Shepherd, Italy, I believe it is, some Hebrew Gospels were discovered. And in our library group, we have a tab actually with these Hebrew Gospels if anybody is interested. But these will also prove, here, I'll put the link in the chat as well. But these will also prove our New Testament has not been changed whatsoever. It's still the same thing. This brings more clarity actually to some of the quote-unquote discrepancies that are made claim to. But as you can see, not only were these Hebrew Gospels, Hebrew manuscripts discovered here in Shepherd, Italy, I believe it is. These people also go through and refute all the objections about it, and they have a YouTube channel as well where they go through these translations and they show, how it lines up exactly to the New Testament we have in our just regular scriptures, the Masoretic, I guess you could say. Oh no, I'm almost finished here, sister, so but no worries, no rush. And Exodus 16, where it says they left with great herds and flocks, 15 days later they got the quail. They had great flocks and herds. Okay, so yeah, thank you for reminding me that. I actually addressed that in our chat the other day. So the herds and the flocks that were taken with were to do the sacrifices, and they had to last through the 40 years. And Exodus 16, actually, let me just pull that up. I knew I'd forgotten something, and you just reminded me of it, Sister Lisa. Yeah, no worries, Sister Miranda. Thank you. Thank you for joining. And, feel free to join back up. I'm sure we're still going to be going there. So, Exodus 16. So this is when they're coming out of the wilderness of sin. So right here, specifically verse 2, and all the congregation of the children of Israel grumbled against Moshe and Aaron in the wilderness. And the children of Israel said to them, if we had only died by the hand of Yahuah in the land of Mitzrayim, when we sat by the pots of meat, and when we ate bread to satisfaction. For you have brought us out into this wilderness to put all this assembly up to death with hunger. So this is what was going on. So there was probably 1 million, maybe more, few million people that came out of the land with them. We have to remember, even the evil, the ones who weren't of Israel, their flocks and herds got slaughtered as well. The firstborn of their flocks and herds were slaughtered. So the flocks and the herds that they brought out with them, they had to have there to be able to do the sacrifices. And it's going to get into that here, actually. And, this is when he sent the manna bread, where he was saying, look, I'm raining bread from the heavens for you. And the people shall go and gather a day's portion every day in order to try them, whether they walk in my Torah. And it continues on, and let me get to the one with the quail. So he hears your grumblings against Yahuah. So verse 7 there, it's because the people are grumbling against Yahuah, not putting their faith and trust in Yahuah to provide for them. And they're complaining that, oh, well, we had, pots full of meat and bread back in Egypt. We could have just been slaves and been happy. They weren't trusting in Yahuah. So in the morning you shall see the esteem of Yahuah. He hears your grumblings against Yahuah. And what are we that you grumble against us? And Moshe said, in that Yahuah gives you meat to eat in the evening, and in the morning bread to satisfaction. For Yahuah hears your grumblings, which you make against him. And what are we? Your grumblings are not against us, but against Yahuah. And Moshe said to Aaron, say all to the congregation of the children of Israel, come near before Yahuah. He has heard your grumblings. And so they all came. They saw his esteem. Here it is. So verse 13, and it came to be that quails came up at evening and covered the camp. And then the morning dew laid all around the camp. And the layer of dew went up, and see, on the surface of the wilderness was a small round substance, fine as frost on the ground. The children of Israel saw, and they said to each other, what is it? For they did not know what it was. And Moshe said to them, it's the bread which Yahuah has given you to eat. This is the word which Yahuah has commanded. Let every man gather it according to each one's need, an omer for each being. According to the number of beings, let every man take for those who are in his tent. And the children of Israel did so and gathered, some more and some less. And they measured it by omers, and he who gathered much did not have too much, and he who gathered little didn't have too little. Each one gathered according to his need. So really what I wanted to point out the most is, look, the quails were coming at evening, and the bread was coming in the morning, the manna bread. This is exactly what was promised here, because he said, Yahuah gives you meat to eat in the evening, and in the morning, bread of satisfaction, bread to satisfaction. So the quail came at the same time as the manna bread did. And all these quails and things were being sent because, you had to have goats, oxes, specific animals to do these sacrifices and offerings. And you have to do them for millions of people each and every day. That's why they couldn't just slaughter the herds and eat them at that time. And this is a word which Yahuah has commanded. Wait, I already read that. Apologies. So about the manna bread. And the sixth day, they gathered twice as much. Then the Sabbath came. Let's see. I know there was a verse in here where it speaks about the quail being given for a month. Because it says, I won't give you it just for a day or a week, but for a whole month, I'm going to send quail. House got the manna. It's still about the manna. I'm pretty sure it's here in Exodus 16. No, it's not Exodus. What is it? Maybe it's Leviticus. Apologies, 1 second. Let me just find the verse real quick. But here we see in Exodus 16, we see the quail and the manna were sent on the same days. And where is... I have it saved in my notes, but I must not have gone far back enough. Let's see. No, that's not it. Where is it? Oh, so it's Numbers 11. Sorry. So we just read Exodus 16. Let's go to Numbers 11. Oops. Hey, shalom and blessings to you, Sister Jennifer. Thank you for joining.
Hey, wait. Jennifer.
Oh, go ahead.
What?
Jennifer.
Yeah.
Can you stay so I can play this song?
Oh, sure.
Am I interrupting, though, Jeremy?
No, go ahead. That'll give me time to bring this up here.
Okay, because I really wanted you to hear it, Jennifer.
Okay, thank you.
I was practicing it real quick, but I wrote this song yesterday, and I've been excited to share this with you guys. My Father, you are the guide of my youth. Is your anger forever? Will you keep it to the end? I have gone up every high mountain and under every green tree. I have played the harlot and turned from thee. My Father said, you have spoken and done evil things as you could. Lift up your eyes unto the high places. I will not cause my anger to fall upon you. Come back to me. Yasharel, I am married unto you. Return to me. I am merciful, I will forgive you. I will take you one of the city and two of the family. I will bring you Zion. I shall give you shepherds after my own heart, and they shall feed you with knowledge of my word. Come back to me. Yasharel, I am married unto you. Return to me. I am merciful, I will forgive you. You will not walk anymore through the stubbornness of your evil heart. You shall call me my Father and will not turn away from me. Come
and so I will forgive you.
Oh, sweetheart, that's beautiful. Praise Yah. Thank you. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, beautiful song, sister. Thank you.
Yeah, very beautiful, Marissa. Praise Yah. Thank you for sharing that with us.
Yeah, I'm so glad
Yes.
I caught you, Jennifer.
Me too. I needed that.
That's Jeremiah 3.
Yeah, I like the book of Jeremiah.
Yeah, beautiful. I love it.
Yeah, it was very beautiful. Oh, all right. I
You,
love you, family. You guys
yeah,
have a wonderful evening.
you as well, sister, and much love to you as well. And
Yeah, thank
we will
you.
see you soon. I pray you have a blessed
Okay.
evening.
You too, brother. Okay, and you all. All right. Bye.
Hold on one second. Something happened here and it glitched on my screen. Give me 1 second. Okay, for some reason my screen glitched there, so I just had to rejoin real quick. But let me get to what I was about to share there. And yeah, we love all your songs there, sister. So this is going to be Numbers chapter 11, and it's going to be more about the quail, and it's going to go into a bit more detail. But we're going to start off here, and we're going to see, verse 1, and it came to be when the people were as complainers. It was evil in the ears of Yahuah, and Yahuah heard it, and his displeasure burned. And the fire of Yahuah burned among them, and consumed those in the outskirts of the camp. And so what was going on here? These people were murmuring and complaining against Yahuah, and it was evil in his sight. So they were crying out to Moshe, and that's when the fire died down. And so we read later on, the people kept complaining, they were having just the manna bread. They wanted some meat. They wanted to have the meat to eat. And so they were murmuring, complaining, crying out. It was not a good thing to Yahuah. And so what does he do? So he gives them a promise, and he says, tomorrow you're going to eat meat. And because you have wept in the hearing of Yahuah. So who is giving us meat to eat? For it was well with us in Mitzrayim. Yahuah shall give you meat, and you shall eat. You're going to eat not 1 day, nor 2 days, or 5 days, or 10 days, or 20 days, but for a month of days, until it comes out of your nostrils and becomes an abomination to you, because you have rejected Yahuah who is among you, and have wept before him, saying, why did we come out of Mitzrayim? So the whole thing is because of this, they're crying and weeping, wanting to go back to Egypt. So continuing on, and Moshe said, the people in whose midst I am are 600,000 men on foot. And you have said, I give them meat to eat for a month of days. Could flocks and herds be slaughtered for them to be sufficient for them? Or could all the fish in the sea be gathered for them to be sufficient for them? So you have to remember what he's saying here is these flocks and herds that came with, they had to be used for the daily sacrifices, the morning, the afternoon, and the evening ones, each and every day. So they couldn't just slaughter all the cattle because they would then have nothing to offer up the sacrifices for. They were in the middle of a desert. They didn't have fish to go and gather. So Moses was perplexed. He's like, how am I going to feed all these people every day for a month if we got to do all these sacrifices? We're here in the desert. There's nowhere we can fish. And Yahuah said to Moshe, is the arm of Yahuah too short? Now see whether my word meets you or not. And so Moshe went out and spoke to the people the words of Yahuah, and he gathered the 70 men of the elders and the people and placed them around the tent. And Yahuah came down in the cloud and spoke to him, and took the spirit that was and took of the spirit that was upon him, and placed the same upon the 70 elders. And it came to be, when the spirit rested upon them, they prophesied, but did not continue. And so we'll continue down. Because the whole claim is, oh, look, as soon as they bit into the quail, everybody just died there. But wait, they forgot to cover the part where Yahuah said he's going to give them quail for an entire month. The entire camp, not just the ones that died. The ones that died are the ones who murmured and complained to Yahuah. So Numbers 11:31. And the wind went forth from Yahuah and brought the quail from the sea and let them fall beside the camp, about a day's journey on this side and about a day's journey on the other side, all around the camp, and about 2 cubits above the surface of the ground. And the people were up all that day and all that night, and all the next day they gathered the quail. He who has least gathered 10 omers, and they spread them out for themselves all around the camp. The meat was still between their teeth before it was chewed. And the wrath of Yahuah burned against the people. And Yahuah smote the people with an exceeding great plague. So did his wrath burn against them because they're eating the quail that Yahuah sent and promised to give them? No, because Yahuah is not like that. He's not going to send something to put the people in sin just to condemn them all. That's not what's going on here. The meat that was between the teeth of these people who complained, that's who Yahuah's wrath was burning against. And the people, they didn't die, but they were smote with a plague. Does a plague cause death? Yes, absolutely. And then there he called the name of that place Kibroth Hatawa, because there they buried the people who had lusted. Lusted after what? Returning back to Egypt and just being fat and filled with whatever they wanted every single day, instead of putting their trust in Yahuah. That's right at the beginning of the entire chapter right here. They were complaining, and it was evil in the sight. They were wanting to go back to Egypt. They weren't putting their trust in Yahuah. They weren't relying on Yahuah. They were saying, oh, this manna bread isn't enough. We want meat. So we can see, no, not everybody died when they ate quail. We know Yahuah is not going to send something that's a sin to, hey, I'm going to send you these things that I'm going to make a promise that you're going to eat meat, but hey, it's a sin to do so. So in reality, I'm just condemning all of you right now. No, that's not what happened at all. I hope that explains it a little bit there, sister. I know we probably went into a little bit more detail than I expected about it, but I'd forgot to actually bring those up as well. I meant to cover those. Yes, no problem. All right, so we covered the Sephardic Hebrew Gospels, or the Gospels found in Sephard. Now we're going to look at the Hebrew Gospels found in Cochin, India, is what it is. And here, let me get the link. Hey, No problem there, Brother Michael. You know, we're recording this, and I'm going to get it on YouTube. I'm going to try for tonight, getting it on YouTube. So, because I think this is very important and very urgent. But there's the link for all who want to study these out as well. And again, you can download these transcripts from their original language, and you can compare it to exactly what's written in our New Testament today.